react on the things, right? So last time we discussed on the small individual, right? So on that time, like the small individual, what they have the ability, what their ability is, they know the defeats of the lower realms, right? So they know all the sufferings and the, the experiences of those hardships of the lower realms. So they think that they better to not take rebirth in the lower realm. So they try to prevent to go to the lower realm, and they maintain to take rebirth in the higher realms, like human realms and God and demigods, right? So their main focus, they give their priority to that goal, to take rebirth in the higher realms. That is their kind of package, their how they do, they have fear to the lower realm, and they like to take rebirth in the higher realms. So this is the the level of the small individual. So now what we are discussing is the middle individual. So middle individual, they they know the same as the small individual, like they have the fear to take rebirth in the lower realm, and at the same time they have another one, the another knowledge, that is that the happiness, the small individual thinks that the higher realms, like human realms and the God realms, we have happiness, to compare with the lower realm, we have more chances to get happy. We have much more happiness, right? So they think like that. But now the middle individual know that the happiness of true realms lasts but a moment, and then it then is quickly gone, just like a dew drops on a blade of grass. So this individual know that all the three realms, all the higher realms, no need to say about the lower realms, right? All the higher realms, the happiness of the higher realms, these are also not the exactly happiness. They are also these happiness, what we, the human realms, we experience the happiness, feel good like that. These are also not the real happiness. We feel it is happiness, right? But actually, when we think about the happiness, what is the happiness? And happiness, what is the peace? And now what we get, peace and happiness, a little bit comfortable, these things are okay, right? It is okay, but it will change, you know, it will change, and we will have to undergo with the suffering. So that's why this a kind of freedom, in the higher realm, our freedom, or our result of the result of the small individuals practice, we get rebirth in the human realm, right? These in this human realm and God realm, there we have happiness. This happiness is not the real happiness. It will change, it will get us into the suffering. So that's why the middle individual knows, the happiness of the whole world, the samsara's happiness are not the real happiness. This is these happiness will be maybe drain us to the to undergo with the more troublesome. So that's why this individual know this, and they, to they strive towards the goal, which is the supreme state of changeless, everlasting liberation. So this is their goal, what they crave. They're afraid of samsaras, whole samsaras, not only the lower realm. They know the defeats of the whole samsara, and they try to get the liberation. Liberation here, it means it says, which is the supreme stage of changeless. This liberation will never change. This freedom, this, what to say, this of freedom, like that, this liberation will never change, endless, ultimate good, like that. So it is, the quality of this liberation is changeless, it will never change. So, but the happiness of the, three realms, or the higher realm, God and human, now what we are experiencing, the happiness and peace, all those things are right. So all those things will be changed, but the liberation is changeless, and it will remain everlasting. So that's why it's called everlasting liberation. So that's why this individual strive, strive towards that goal, which is changeless, everlasting liberation. And they have the fear to get into the samsara, not only the lower realm. Like the small individual, they have fear of the lower realm. They don't have the fear to get take rebirth in whole samsara. They are okay with the human realm and God realm, the higher realms. If they can take rebirth in higher realm, this is okay for them. But now it is not okay. We have to liberate from whole samsara, because the samsara, the happiness of three realms, all the three realms are not, the happiness of the whole three realms, or the whole samsara is, uh, the moment by moment it will change. It will go one time, sometime we may happy, sometime, and that, because of that happiness, we will have to go with the we have to undergo with the suffering again. So this cyclic existence, that's why it's called cyclic existence, go up and down, up and down, like this, no rotation, like this. So that's why this individual knows all the things, and they try to free from this samsara, and they practice very gently to get liberation. Okay, so for now, we have, for this topic, we have to know little bit more about the defects of samsara, right? So we will, last time we discussed more the defects of lower realm, but we don't know the defects of the higher realms, right? Human and demigod and gods. We think we are happy, we are okay, and gods are okay, and demigods are okay, right? That, as the small individual things, we all have that kind of feeling. So that's why we have to know the defects of the higher realms and whole samsaras. So we will discuss a little bit on that. Next one. Okay, so what are the defects of the human realm? So human realms, in the books, in the Buddhist book, it says mostly the suffering of human realm are the suffering of birth, suffering of aging, the suffering of illness, and the suffering of death. These four are the most spoken uh, topic, that to know the suffering, know the our suffering of our human realms, ourselves, how we are suffering. Sometimes we don't know, we don't have the idea that we are suffering. Actually, we are suffering because of this time. There is four kinds of the suffering. Suffering of birth, suffering of aging, illness, and death. And there are four other also. We'll discuss later. So first, the suffering of birth. How the birth is suffering. We never remember, when we take, when we birth, when we have birth from our mother, we suffer a lot, but we never know, we never remember that suffering. So to know that, we have to first, when somebody dies and they are searching for the take rebirth in the next realm, right? Like in the bardo, mostly we are calling in Tibetan words, it's bardo, and like the intermediate state. They are just, our mind, mind are mind mind are searching for the womb, mother's womb. And when they see, and then during the father and mother's time, and they see that this is the place where I have to take rebirth, then they go with the mother's womb, right? And they mix with the mother's, all those mother's things, and they become a little bit tougher and tougher. Then slowly they become, the orifice come, hand, legs, and little bit. At that time, during our time on the mother's womb, when mother eat so much, that time we suffer a lot. And sometimes when mother eat spicy and all those, little bit not favorable for child, then it will suffer a lot. And sometimes when mother don't eat the very satisfying, they remain hungry, at that time also the child will suffer. And when the times comes, and during the real, the baby coming out, that time the baby suffers a lot, like, what to say, but the baby suffers a lot. When they come to the world, real world, they knock the rail, outside the world. Their, body is very soft. And when somebody in the nurse or whoever they are, they wipe those things, and it is very hard to them. This is like when our flesh, we drag towards our body, our flesh onto the wall, we suffer a lot, right? It is like that because the baby's whole body is very soft. So whenever they touch the hand or whatever, the towel or whatever it is, and they suffer a lot and a lot. But now we don't feel that, we already forget. We forget all those things. So in this way, at that time, we during the birth, we are not suffering our own. How the mother is suffer, this time, this thing I want to share a little bit, right? During the birth, how our mother are suffering so much, right? We don't have the idea how much they suffer, so that's why our body, our mind is came from the former life, right? From the bardo, or the intermediate state. But this body, this is mix of the father and mother's elements, it said that our bones are from father and the flesh and bloods from mother. So our body itself is owned to our father and mother. And especially mother, they suffer a lot. They sacrifice a lot for their babies, for us, you know. So that's why sometimes we forget those mothers' love. We forget our mothers, you know, the sacrifices, you know. Sometime in different situation, sometimes when the mother slap us, you know, we angry and we, you know, we may tell the police and call the police and get our mother to the jail, right? This I heard this situation, so I feel so bad, you know. This is like, you know, our body is not owned by ourselves. It is owned by our mother, really. It is true. If we think deeply, you know, during the birth, you know, during the birth, how much they suffer, how much they sacrifices for us. So to think about this, our mother's love, our mother's sacrifices, then we will never do bad towards our mother. We'll always have that kind of, you know, loving kindness thing always arise from our heart, deeply from our heart. If we think the mother's sacrifices and mother's love. So this is a little bit addition towards to know our own suffering of the birth. So all to summarize the suffering, the birth, when we taking birth, there is so many sufferings. So that's why as a human, we have a suffering of birth. And the second one is suffering of aging. When we age, when we become old and old, and then what we become? Then our, you know, glowing face will fade away. We will have wrinkles, and our strength, you know, power, you know, will deteriorate, and our voice, our all, you know, eyes, faculties, all will lesser and lesser and lesser, and we have to, you know, have a, you know, stick. We can't go straightly. Our body will bend. Our hair will change. You know, our tooth, you know, the teeth will fall down and become an old man or human. Sometimes they are really, their thing also change, you know, thinking, how they thinking. They become very like a baby, you know, the old men like 70, 80, when we meet them. They are very playful sometimes. They all changing. These are suffering, you know. Sometimes they feel very happy, you know, when we see an adult, their face, they are up to something, you know, they are doing this and that. When we talk, they looks okay, but actually they are suffering with the age, you know. When we grow older and older, you know, little some the feeling, you know, the feeling will, I think it will comes in our heart, unknowingly, knowing or no unknowingly. So this is the suffering of aging, you know. Sometimes nowadays I heard so many times that, you know, age is just a number. No. Age is not just a number. It is, you know, the related with our life, you know. It is not just a number, you know. By the age growing, you know, our body and our thinking, our strength, all will changing. So aging is not just a number. Aging is so meaningful thing. So that's why we human, we have this feeling, you know, when we grow old, we feel, we remember our childhood, we remember our former years. Oh, that time I have been that. Oh, how beautiful. I want to go back to that time. Like that feeling, it is because of our, the aging. So this is the suffering of aging. And then the third one is the suffering of illness. And as a human, how healthy you are, how healthy we are, we will have to face the illness, headache, stomach ache, so many disease. There are so many things that so many illness, so many illness come to us where because of once we become ill, then we have to take medicine. We have to stop what we want to eat. The advice of the doctor. Doctor will going to say you should not eat this, you should not drink this. So we like to drink that thing, we like to eat that thing, but we can't eat, we can't drink. Because of if we drink, and the illness will eat us. it will bring us right back. So that's why we can't eat, we can't drink. At the same time, our aging is growing, illness, and then we suffer a lot. So that's why sometimes the time just fleeting, go moment by moment. We are busy on our own stuff. We never think our own, this insight, our body, how this body is changing, how our mind is changing, how this illness are coming towards us. We never think that, we always look outside, do something to become success, all those things. So we never think back. So that's why the suffering of illness is very, very danger thing in some way. And the fourth one is the suffering of death. So when the time of death, then there is so many, superstitions, we will have what? Okay. Superstitions, right? So during when we die, then there. Okay, are you hearing me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we do,
Okay.
Acharya.
Okay. Then when we die, then when the time of dying, then we have so many things, our relatives, our wealth, we have, so we will experience those things, we will feel very unhappy, we will become sad, and then during that time, when we die, and our body we will what? Okay, we will leave our body and we will go from this, our mind will go to the intermediate state, and body will remain. So that time we have to go through our karmic connection. So that's why during the death we have so many hallucinations, there are so many things keep coming towards us, during when we die, and there is also so many sufferings. So these four suffering is main the suffering, and there are so many other suffering also in the human realm, and like that, to separate from what one like is suffering, when we die, then we will have to separate from our relatives, our friends, our all the the close one, we have to separate from them. And sometimes during our lifetime we have to separate from different places and different things, different friends. So the suffering, the human realms, we have the suffering of the separating, separating. And to encounter what one dislike is suffering. Also, we don't like something yet, we don't like our enemy, but it will encounter, right? So that's why it's suffering. We like our friends, but it will separate. So this is also suffering. And next one. Okay, this one. To strive after and not obtaining what one wants is suffering. Then we work and we do so much thing what we want to get, but we sometimes we don't get that what we want to get, right? So we strive so much, but we don't obtain what we want. That is also suffering. This suffering just happens towards our human realm. And to undergo hardship in order to maintain what one has is suffering. So once we have what we want, then it is very difficult to maintain. So we have to undergo the hardship in order to maintain. So what we have, then we suffer. What we don't have, then we suffer. Sometimes we separate from somebody when we suffer. Sometimes we engage with somebody, then we suffer. So whole this human realms, as a human, we have suffering, we have suffering of birth, aging, illness, and suffering from our friends, and engaging with the enemies, and not obtaining what we want, strive, but we never obtain. Once we obtain, it is very difficult to maintain. So there is fear, somebody may steal, somebody may. So all those things, we human realms, we face all those suffering. So that's why human realm is suffering a lot. We are suffering a lot. Now we never think like that, right? So the Dharma, the Buddha shows that we are suffering. That's why Buddha's teaching, when the Buddha gave the teaching, he said the truth of the suffering, have to know the truth of suffering. So we have to know what the suffering going inside us, what the things are suffering us. We have to know all those things. Altogether, there are 8 sufferings for us. And it depends on individual. There are lots of suffering for us, right? So this is one. And the second one is the suffering of demigods. The demigods, they are naturally, the envy towards the splendor of the god. And they always fight with the gods, fight with the gods. And because of their weak merit, and they always lose. So that's why they suffer a lot. And demigod, and the suffering of the god of the desire realm. The gods, there are so many types of gods in Buddhism, right? Desire realms is there are so many in the desire realm. There are some few gods, and they are also suffering. The desired goal, they have happiness. They live their luxury life. They have so many happiness. They forgot all those suffering. They live very happily, right? But before 1 week they die, then they know they are going to die, and their body will become smelly, and the garlands of flower will fade away, and the friends of their friends of them will know that this kind of god going to die, and they will not give company, and they become lonely, and they know, because of their, they know after they die from the God, then they will know that where next, where the future life is, life is going to take rebirth, hell or hungry ghosts or human ram, all those things, they know, because they exhaust their merit by enjoying the pleasure things. So when they finished their causes to enjoy the God's realm, then they die and again go to the lower realm. So that is the suffering of gods, desire God. And the suffering of four form realms and the suffering of the four formless realm. These gods doesn't have that much suffering. Of course, they don't have suffering. Right? God doesn't have the suffering, but they also don't have the happiness also. They mostly remain on the samadhi. They concentrate on the meditation. They don't have much feelings. There are so many things to know, but in this for formless realms and form realms, there are so many things to know. To summarize, they don't have happiness, they don't have suffering, just they feel nothing. They just simply they live, just exhaust their time. This is because of their cause. When they, during the human realm, they meditate a lot, and they take rebirth in these realms, form realms and formless realm. But this time they don't have the suffering as us. But once they finish their causes, the fuel of the merit, then they have to come back to the ocean of the samsara, ocean of the lower realm. So again they have to undergo with the lots of suffering. So that's why whole, if we think all the samsara, from the bottom, from the hell to the top of the top one is the formless realm. All are suffering. Actually, the formless and form realms, God, they don't have the suffering like us, vividly. But after they finish, after they exhausting their merit, like a fuel, after they finish their fuel, then they have to come back. So in this way, this cyclist existence, it is always, making round and round, go up, down. So we all are suffering. All are suffering. So to know this exactly, we have to know the three kinds of suffering. We'll discuss a little bit on that. Next one. Okay. So there are three kinds of sufferings we have to know. In Buddhism, it is a very important topic. Suffering of suffering, suffering of change, and pervasive suffering. Suffering of suffering is that we know, like if we become illness, then we know we are suffering. Somebody knock us, then we suffer. Like somebody kill us, we suffer. Somebody separate from us what we want, and we encounter with what we dislike, then we suffer a lot, right? And aging, all those things, we know, we see the suffering of dogs and cats, all those animals, cows, we learn about the suffering of hell and hungry ghost. This suffering, this suffering is suffering of suffering. The suffering that is known very easily. We can know that suffering is very easily. Everybody will know. That's why it's called suffering of suffering. And suffering of change. Suffering of change. This is little bit difficult to know, Like when we have happiness, we are in peace. At that time, we never feel we are in the suffering. Like the desire God, desire God. They live very happily. They always happiness. Their life is, they live their life very happily, very peacefully. They are busy with to experience happiness. At that time, they don't know that is the suffering. But actually, Buddha said that is also happiness. Happiness also suffering. That is called suffering of change. Whole the samsara, there's little bit happiness we all experience. Like we also experience happiness, peace, and comfortable. And also the animals, they have also comfortable, they have also peace. And God also, they have happiness and peace. And these happiness and peace, worldly stuff, happiness of the world, happiness in the samsara, this happiness is called suffering of change, because it will change this. Now we are in peace, and this peace will change into suffering. So that's why this is called suffering of change. And the fourth one is, this is little bit difficult to know. And the third one is more difficult to know, the pervasive suffering. We will never, the pervasive suffering is known by only known by the arhats, the practitioner, the great practitioner who realized the nature of the phenomena. They will know, they will feel the pervasive suffering. We will never feel this suffering. We will never feel the suffering of the pervasive suffering. The pervasive suffering is that all our faculties, I know our body itself is suffering. We will know, but now we don't have the ability to know the pervasive suffering. It is like that, a little dust. When we put on our hand, we will never feel it. At the same time, this dust, when we put in our eye, then we can feel, So this dust, when we put on our hand, we don't feel, we don't have any experience. When we put that dust into our eye, then we can feel, we can experience so much suffering, right? So like this, the arhat, the realized person one, they have that kind of eye, that kind of eye. Because of that eye, they can know the pervasive suffering. We are like the hand. We have this suffering, but we are not experiencing, like the dust is put on our hand. We don't have any feelings, right? So now we don't feel any suffering of this pervasive suffering. Actually, we are in that. Once we realize, when we practice genuinely, and we gain some kind of realization, then we will gain that kind of eye. And when we put that dust into that eye, then they will feel suffering. they will suffer a lot. So likewise, arhats, they will know the pervasive suffering. So altogether, suffering and suffering, suffering of change, suffering, the pervasive suffering, whole samsara, the whole world are trapped in this three kind of suffering. So we have to get free from this suffering, right? As last time we said, we discussed the small individual, they can feel the suffering of lower realm. They don't feel the suffering of higher realms, as human realm, suffering of human realm, suffering of demigod, suffering of the god. They don't feel that. So now the middle individual, they know the suffering of human realms, suffering of demigods, suffering of the gods, as well as all those lower realms. So whole samsara is suffering. This type of individual know the samsara is suffering. So they are afraid to take rebirth in this samsara, because they know the defects of this samsara. Once now we feel happy, but it is change, the suffering of change. Sometimes we have, when we don't have any feeling, sad or happiness or suffering, we don't have any those kind of feeling, but actually we are suffering a lot because of the pervasive suffering. We don't feel. So this kind of person know that all this kind of suffering, and they are very fear of this suffering, and they eagerly, they were very eager to get liberation. So that's why the second individual, the middle individual, the practice of the bodhisattva is to strive towards the goal, which is limit, the changeless and everlasting liberation. So they crave for that liberation, and they practice a lot, and one day they can get liberation. A bodhisattva must practice this also. So that's why bodhisattva, as a bodhisattva, we have to know the suffering of samsara, whole samsara, and defeat of the samsara, and we have to renounce this samsara and to the to crave to the liberation. So bodhisattva have to, as a bodhisattva, we have to have this kind of practice. What? Okay. So for until now, we discuss lots of suffering and troublesome, or the hardship, defects of samsara, all those bad things, right? So from the next time, then we will discuss a little bit more, beautiful things, how to practice. Nowadays we all misery, that is also suffering, that is also bad, that is also good. So I think it is little bit, not to feel good. We just discussing all those bad things. So as a Buddhist practitioner, we have to know the situation. All what I'm trying to tell you is that we have to know the situation, situation of the world, and how to free from those situations. So we have to know the field. Good field, there are so many good fields, there are so many bad fields. We have to know good and bad, which way and which what to do, what not to do. If we know, then it's up to us which way should we go. So just I'm trying to discuss, or trying to introduce all those things, as it is not my personal feeling, it is on the topic. The stanzas and all those Buddhist texts are saying the same what I'm saying this. So next time we will discuss on the, the great individual and how to deal with those troublesomes, how to become beautiful. There are so many beautiful things we'll discuss next time. So for today, I think we will stop here. If you have any questions, you are welcome. Thank you.